Good evening. I'm Elsie St. Louis. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of the Haitian Americans United for Progress, your community-based organization serving you for nearly 48 years. We serve children, youth, adults, women, men, everything in between. And tonight we are very happy to welcome David Lewis. David Lewis is a young Haitian American man. David is dedicated to public service and currently holds the position of Deputy Commissioner at the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit. He has extensive experience in community engagement, public administration. Of course, he plays a vital role fostering strong relationships between government and local communities, which will be us. And Mr. Lewis is committed to addressing the diverse needs and concern of residents, collaborating with community leaders, and implementing initiatives that promote inclusivity and social cohesion. His leadership and strategic approach contributes significantly to enhancing the overall well-being of the city's neighborhood. En d'autres termes, David, c'est un spécialiste, David Louis, son haïtien. David son haïtien américain, et heureusement, il parle créole. David est capable de joindre avec Assoyan. Et puis, Assoyan, on a parlé de l'éducation, c'est vrai, mais on a surtout parlé de tous les services que nous avons besoin comme communauté qui est capable, que office maire, dans Mayor's Community Affairs Unit là qui supporter nous. Parce que pile bagay que nous pas connaît, il y a des services qui là pour nous que nous pas connaît qui j'en Assoyan. On a pas avec David a parlé nous amplement de qui ça gagne dans ville là. Et puis nous-mêmes tous, si nous avons quelques questions, comme d'habitude, nous mettons dans le chat là et puis nous prenons après. D'accord? Merci, bonne écoute. Et puis à tout à l'heure, on a tourné encore. David, welcome.
Thank you, Elsie. I really appreciate that, and I am very excited to be here and part of this educational series to Hope, the board and the leaders of Hope. Thank you also for the invitation. I'm humbled. I'm excited to be here. Moi, très content pour là. Merci pour l'invitation et salut à tout le monde.
David, before you start, one of the things I wanted to talk about is there's there used to be a long time ago in prior administrations a liaison that was directly in the community, and that used to be the person who's the eye and the ear of the community, and also who would be bringing our needs to the office of the mayor and connect us. What would you say that role has been? Does this role still exist, or is that a role that is included under your position?
Yeah, so I think that role it's twofold. So we have a Caribbean liaison at the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit that connects with communities all across the Caribbean islands. But I'm also of Haitian descent, and so I connect with Haitian communities all times, being able to connect with them in the Haitian Creole language, the French language, to help address their needs. So if there are any individuals that are in need of some sort of service or they have some sort of question, I can work with Hope to gather what the concerns are and then help relay back the information and the resources. So nous gen un office là ou ça nous relè un liaison dans office là qui supporte tout le monde qui vit dans Caribbean Island yo, mais moi-même comme haïtien là pour servir haïtien also. So si nous gen question, nous met vini connecter avec Hope, Hope ka connecter avec et m'ka ba information ba Hope pour disperser information avec tout.
David, what are some of we had the opportunity to speak to the Board of Ed. We had the opportunity to speak to people who are educators, but what do you feel that for newcomers, especially, let's start with the children. I know Nicole Roseford has really educated us on the various resources for parents. But what is it that the city has for children, particularly newcomers, that they can immediately take advantage of, guiding them through the summer into the school year?
Right. So there are many resources, I would say, primarily, and I'm assuming you're talking about educationally. So it'd be through schools. So at the moment that a a newcomer comes into the city and an adult has a child and the child needs to be connected to a school, that child can be enrolled in a school immediately. And so they'd be able to begin school, they'd be able to connect with, I believe it's now maybe English language learners or English as it used to be known as English as a second language. And so, where if they are a non English speaker, they would be able to connect with teachers that can help them through the language to be able to learn the curriculum presented at the Department of Education.
And the fear of immigration status doesn't play a role in a child attending school in the city of New York, right?
Non, non, som ta enkouraje tout paran yo si ou gen pitit wap rentre avek pitit ou la nan New York e yo bezwen edukasyon formal ke ou pa bezwen pe pou mete yo nan l'ekol nan Department de Edukasyon nan site a. Seul baga ou bezwen fe se ou met ale nan sa yo rele on Family Welcome Center, se on sant pou fami yo ka konekte avèk administrasyon pou di yo l'aj pitit yo, edukasyon formal avan yo te entre nan New York. So yo ka konekte yo avèk ou l'ekol.
What about the parents? Okay, let's talk about the summer. We were getting a lot of information. I know Summer Rising, and I'm not sure if I'm afraid. I'm sorry if I'm throwing you a wrench here, but I know about Summarizing. We have Summarizing, and I know mkonen program Summarizing na son dezastre, son désordre, jan ti moun yo enregistre, ki ti moun ki ka ban enregistre, mkonen men gan pil ti moun. Si yo pa pran yo nan Summarizing, est-ce gen lot opsyon ke paran sa yo gen a part de Summarizing nan vil New York?
So pour dire oui, summarizing c'est programme principal pour tout ti moun yo. So gen lot programme aussi, mais si ti moun yo nan pas besoin assistant spécial, so if they're not a child of a special need, summarizing would be one of the main programs that the children would be enrolled in. And so ça seulement on pas besoin faire, mais application Femme Kounia, you ouvert en avril. But what would have happened is that a parent would have applied and then they would have received notification and they would have been able to select a number of schools that they wanted to enroll their child in. And then they would go through the selection process, get notified whether or not their child was accepted into the program.
What
But
about children who applied in? There are a lot of children, number of children and parents who applied early and still didn't make the cut. And some of them, I understand, were enrolled and disenrolled.
Oh, so if they were enrolled in this role, we would love to learn more about that. I can definitely connect them with the Department of Education to further look into that. So, si gen parent qui te recevoir ou lettre d'acceptance, et après ça, yo di yo pa ka accepter dans l'école là, ou met voyel by Miss Elsie et la qui te me connaît, n'a travaillé avec Department de Education pour ça t'arriver.
One last thing about the summer before we go, and one last thing about the question people are asking. Manger pour ti moun yo. Est-ce que ti moun ki faut ti moun nan gon l'école li la dan pour k'ap manger breakfast avec lunch ki yo bay nan l'école yo, ou bien n'importe ti moun ge doit aller al manger nan l'école yo?
What I understand is that DOE provides free breakfast and lunch, I believe, during the summer. And so, as long as you are a child, and so I believe that is anyone between 18 years of age and under would qualify for free meals, and they would not have to be enrolled in the school.
David, can you tell us what services directly that you may have for migrants in the city of New York? Qui sa office ou an est responsable exactement?
So at the community affairs unit is the office that I'm at, as at the mayor's office. So CAU, which is what it's known, is the connection between City Hall and the residents across the city. And so our primary mission is to really just create partnerships and and really tap into what's happening in the communities to make sure to actively engage and mobilize the residents across the city, allowing the city to better serve its residents. And so we're responsible for um, many things, and we oversee many things over at CAU, but we don't have. We're different from other agencies. For example, the Department of Education oversees education. The Department of Health would oversee health issues. We are what I would like to call more of a storing house, where if folks are having concerns or questions, we can help direct them to the appropriate resources and provide the information that they need.
Okay. And so I know one of the things we were talking about is how can we make some of the mayoral service of the city service more accessible to our constituents? Meaning, are there still, I remember there was a time the mayor's office or there were other city agencies who used to be mobile. So they would have a day of service in varied agencies, and there would be language competent people who would be attending. Are these things still available?
Yes, so it all depends on what the service is. So I will not say that it's for every service. It again is contingent upon how this service can be delivered, but in many instances our city agencies are always mobilizing and actively engaged in the community. And so if there is a specific service that you would like to connect your constituents with, please let me know. I'm happy to connect with the respective city agency and have them meet with you and hold some sort of engagement day where folks can come over to Hope's headquarters and have their specific questions about a certain resource addressed.
One of the things I'm part of this organization or this civic informal civic group called CHA, which you know about. I know you've met us and spoken to us in the past. We have been, they were very engaged in talking to the mayor and connecting the mayor with city with other local organizations, particularly in Queens. And I know we connected with Board of Ed, and we spoke to the Board of Ed, and and one of the things that was important to our community, because the welcome centers are so not user friendly. um we wanted to see if there was a way the Board of Ed could like do a day where they would bring DOE and information. I'm so sorry, I'm not home and I'm trying to navigate this computer
Oh,
that's
you're
not
fine. You're fine. No problem now. We're all good.
so so we were trying to see how we can do a day of service where DOE can come. And I know, especially with the new influx of parents that we have, we have we have a group coming from the border, we have the humanitarian parole. So these are all people who are coming with children and are trying to get their children in school, and sending them to different family centers are not exactly it's not exactly the most friendly way they could, or the most supportive way. You know what I mean? So is there a way you can kind of support our request to the DOE? Because I know they spoke to us and said they were coming, then we've been going back. And so, is there a way you can partner with them and support what our request, and then do a real day of action where we can provide some real services for the children before school opens, so parents don't have to get lost in September?
So ka connecter avec DOE and find out ça t'est arrivé at the last instant to ensure that they can work out how they can have this day of action that you guys are looking for. So I can make sure that the reconnection takes place again and see how we can make this happen before school begins in September.
Okay. And David, one more thing. Can you tell us if the 311 number that connects us to all city programs is not friendly. So until we set up a way that the city services can be a little more localized. I mean, of course, with the community-based organization, that would be unfair to say that's not an extension of the city services. I understand that, but there are things we are not that are very not accessible. How do we get those commissioners, those deputy commissioners to actually be in the community, speaking to the community?
So you can reach out to those community. A lot of these agencies have what I would call community engagement teams, and so you'd be able to reach out to them and request for senior leadership to come out and speak to a specific issue that is taking place in the community. And so they are more than happy to connect with the community because that is what they do. That's their primary focus, to understand what the needs are and for them to deliver that service back to making sure that the needs that the community has are being addressed.
Is there a different role between the mayor's community affair and the Office of Immigrant Affairs? Moya and CAU, what exactly is the difference? And what exactly is the what do they have in common, and where do their roles separate?
Yes, so there is a difference between the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs and the Community Affairs Unit. So the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, or as it's affectionately known as MOIA, it works to understand the impacts of the immigrant community, from children straight up to adults. So it works on various issues. Versus CAU doesn't, although it serves every New Yorker, so that includes the immigrant population, but CAU really focuses on, doesn't focus primarily on immigration or immigrant concerns. That's Moya. So if someone from the Haitian community came to me and there was a specific Moya concern, I can take it in and then I can speak with Moya about it and connect them with the services at Moya. But at that point, I would make the handoff and I wouldn't be the person delivering the specific service.
Now, these are resources for parents, and we're going to follow up about, really, because it matters to us that we get DOE out in the community and do a real day of service before September. So we'll be definitely be reaching out to you and get your support and get some guidance from you. Now let's shift back to other things that are in community. Recently, we're invited by Life of Hope to just to take conversation with commissioner for small business. So that was in Queens and in Brooklyn, and there were a number of initiatives and opportunities, including a grant that I know members of the community applied for, and they, of course, said the money ran out. And when we met with them, he did say, no, no, the money did not run out, but the money did run out. Technically, on paper, it did run out. So, how would you what services would you say, how do we connect our small businesses, our mom and pop locally, especially in areas the way we are a little more remote in Queens, to these services? Would that go through your office? Is that something you would be able to work with the community and facilitate, to have him out here and really doing something that is sensitive to the small businesses that don't have a lot of that are not yet equipped to apply for this grant, at least get them prepared? Is that something you'll be able to facilitate for us?
So nan CAU nou ka pran nepot problem ke moun genyen, men si repons lan se pou un moun ki nan biznis, um, ofis ki nou rele Department of Small Business Services, se yo menm ki are the best suited agency pou repon. So m ka toujou pran problem lan, fom ta rele SBS e di SBS, gen Madame Elsie ki gen un bakery ki bezwen un grant pou un bagay, eske ou ka ede yo, montre yo ki kalite de grant li ka aplike pou. We wouldn't be the storehouse for that information. SBS would. And so it's important for the experts, the city agency that is the subject matter expert in the area, to really lead in that. But I'm more than
No, no,
happy to feel that and direct them.
what I'm trying to say is not so much taking an individual concern, because I find that the city is not as accessible as it sounds. So what I mean by, it's always good to have a person that can facilitate something. Like, I'm not saying that we wouldn't want to bring individual concerns to you, but want to know in what manner would you be able to facilitate a visit or or larger conversation, we say with that office, and maybe something you could have a facility to get them out here so they could. And my interest in you mostly is the fact that, for example, somebody like you, somebody like Lovely Palomar, who's always our go-to person, even though sometimes it's not her role, but to have her connect us. It's the language and the culture sensitivity that you bring to the conversation that we would like to know, if that's something we can arrange, and is that something you would be willing to do jointly with the small business services?
Yeah, I think we're at CAU. We're willing to do it with any of the agencies. So if there's a concern that's impacting the community, we're more than happy to facilitate either a Zoom meeting or an in person meeting where necessary. As long as we have the ability to just properly coordinate these meetings, I don't see it as an issue, right? We just need to identify it. Sometimes figuring out what the issue is may not require a commissioner to address it, right? It could be somebody that's part of the engagement team that could provide the answer. So it all depends on what the concern is. But we are more than happy to make sure that we're connecting you with the right agency that can help address the issue. So if it's business, then it would be SBS. Again, if it's, let's say it's a structure or some sort of violation against somebody's house, then that would be the Department of Building. So either way, we're happy to make sure that you're speaking to DOB, you're speaking to SBS, you're speaking to finance if there's a tax issue. If you have seniors that are Haitian seniors, or I'm sorry, we're not using the term seniors any longer, but older adults. So si nou gen kan moun ki bezwen servis, peut-être yo bezwen un senior center pour aller, an older adult center pour rete pendant journée an. Nou ka konekte avec DIFTA, the Department for the Aging, so that they can get whatever service that they need as an older adult. So, and then we can have staff from the agency connect with you. So if you just let us know what the concern is, we'll have conversations with these agencies, see if it requires a meeting. If not, we can actually just do one-on-one connections between you and the agency, and they can just directly give you the resource. Sometimes it's a piece of paper, sometimes it's a meeting, sometimes it's a conversation. It all depends, and we can work to make sure that that information is in the appropriate language as well. Many of our agencies have literature that is in Haitian Creole or French for our Haitian Creole and French speaking communities.
Another question that was asked when we said we're talking to our students about you coming here, when we're talking about not just for older adults, we're talking about financial literacy, and we're talking about, is there an office, and we've been looking to do this because everybody we reach out to has been a real dilemma to get attorneys and people who specialize in having our older adults and people who don't have the means and who don't have the access to attorneys to help set up will and testament. Is there such an office or such a department in the city that we would be able to reach out to give some support to our communities in that area that you would know of?
So that is a great question. I don't have the answer for you now. I will close the loop with you and get back. So mpa konen si gen avoka ka pe dekreye will et testament le parent ap mouri and yo bezwen pase ou bagay a ti moun yo. Fom ta gade pou wè si gen un entite ou un program ki etabli deja pou ede gom moun nou yo nan komunite a. So I don't know. I will find out and let you know. I think when you're talking about providing just legal support, that I think when there is a limitation in the kind of legal support that can be provided, but it doesn't mean that the answer is no. I just need to figure it out and then I'll get back to you. But we do have an office specifically for older adults, and so they provide a flurry of services. For example, if si gen gwa moun ki rete nan kayo, yo pa ka paye pou achete yon air conditionné, yo ka travay avèk the city pou aplike pou un grant pou recevoir an air conditionné nan kayo, right? So instead of having your mom, your father, an older adult, an older aunt, older uncle in the house without proper air conditioning, they can actually apply to get a grant funded air conditioner installed in their property or in their apartment.
No, I remember that program, and we participated in it last year, and it was very, very helpful. David, the city at the beginning, and we did this with the borough president, which was really great during COVID, and it was not only was the food distribution, but also, and I'm not talking about just for Haitian, I'm talking about for the entire constituency, because we don't serve just Haitians. Um, Food for older adults. And I know there are a number of organizations that do food distribution and food drives, but there are a lot of seniors who do not have the capacity, who are no longer able to go stand on that line for hours waiting for food. There was a support system, or somewhere that they used to be able to call so they can get those type of food delivered for them, even if it was food that would be donated. Is that program still happening citywide?
So,
Oh,
yes, so it's not the same program that was taking place during the pandemic, but there is a program called Meals for Seniors that I believe through the Department for the Aging, seniors can receive hot meals up to twice a week. And so what I believe is that they get enough for the week, but they receive it twice a week, and then they're able to either cook them or microwave them or heat them to eat them. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So there is a program that exists, but again, they would have to go through, because it's for older adults, the Department for the Aging.
will they have to be registered in a particular DIFTA program to be able to qualify for that? Or any
Um,
person, any older adult can apply for that? Because that's a major issue for us.
so I don't know what the exact requirements are. M pa konen qualification yo pou aplike pou meals pou seniors yo. Mais si ou gen senior ki bezwen, ou met ki tem konen, ma konekte yo avek DIFTA, m ka bay yo an list nan de moun ki bezwen meal nan men DIFTA, and then DIFTA ka rele yo, pale avek yo pou we ki jan yo ka ede yo.
Okay, moving on to another issue that was brought up, which we talked about education, we talked about our small businesses, we talked about our seniors. Now, we having a housing crisis. A housing crisis in that, not so much that we having a housing crisis that we have a whole bunch of people who don't have a, we're not talking so much about the established folks here. We're talking about our newcomers. And I know, with all the influx of various immigrants that are here, there are a lot of efforts being made to house the migrants. But I don't feel like that effort is as is there's not that much of an effort with the Haitian migrant. So can you speak on that?
So I'm not the expert on the residents that are incoming residents right now, but what I will say is that if there are people of Haitian descent that are in need of services, again, let us know, and we're more than happy to connect them with services. You know that there is a big push right now through the Office of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships to work with faith-based institutions and the community to provide housing to migrants. And so, if there are, and this is where I think city government and community really come together. If there are Haitian migrants that are in need of housing, and there are Haitian property owners that are willing to provide housing, let us know. If there are Haitian faith-based institutions that are willing to provide housing, let us know, and we are more than happy to connect them with the right person to really work on how they're going to able to provide housing to those folks that they've identified.
So that would be a conversation that we would be able to do with you offline, and you would connect us so we can give the information to the folk. Because one of the things when we speak about housing for our newcomers, it's usually the shelter system. One, Haitians are very weary and very um, there's a lot of taboo about the shelter system, even for non-Haitians. And then when now with the influx of migrants, the ones who do agree to finally go to the shelter is short-lived. And then the ones who have been able to stay in the shelter and actually get the voucher cannot find adequate housing or cannot find supportive housing. So, and you say that's something that needs to be discussed, but that's not something that needs to be discussed with the Department of Housing. Where in the city would be the right place to actually have that urgent, immediate conversation?
Well, so if you're talking about housing, for sure, there is a big push, like I've mentioned, between the faith-based community and the city's Office of Faith-based Part and Community Partnerships. And so, if there are a lot of faith-based institutions right now that have a lot of property that are providing shelter to new residents in New York. And so, if there are residents that you identify that are in need, again, let us know. But one of the major ways is folks who are saying, I own a couple of buildings and I would like to see if I'm able to provide housing to folks that are incoming right now. There are faith-based institutions that would like to provide housing. We're more than happy to see how we can make the connection with the migrants and those who have the ability to house folks in their properties.
Okay. Okay. David, I am so glad you came out and so glad. And I hope this is not going to be the first of many. This is not going to be the first. We want to be able to tap into your knowledge and see what we can learn from you and what's resources that are in the city that we can bring to the community. So, is there anything that you have not covered or haven't asked? Because I'm only asking questions from the list of questions or issues that were made known to us. And so, on a personal note, for Hope, um, I know you know how challenging it has been to get contracts processed to the city. And so, and I want to thank you because you know, for offering always to advocate on our behalf to move things. Would you know, are there progress been made in that area to move contract? I mean, I know, but people ask a lot of questions. Like when people say, when I said I don't have money, I get contract with the city, but I think it's so sometimes it's so hard for the community to understand that we get money from the mayor's office, we get money to provide various services, but all the city money is on a reimbursable amount. So if I don't have money to be able to provide the service, I don't have the services to bill, and if the contract is not registered, I cannot bill. Is there any way you could shed some light on this for the community so that way it comes from from a source of knowledge as opposed to from me?
No, I think what you said sounds correct, right? So if there is a concern about just receiving the funding for contracts, we're more than happy to make that connection again. And so the mayor's office of contract services is the lead agency that helps administer these contracts and provides payment. But we also have a newly established office, the Mayor's Office of Nonprofit Services, I believe is the name. And so as they build up, they will be really working in tandem with Mox, Mayor's Office of Contract Services, to really deliver on the um, payout of contracts and making sure things are good. I will say that under Mayor Adams, there was a, I'm sorry, under Mayor Adams, there, as soon as he came in, he realized there was just a huge backlog. I mean, billions of dollars in contracts. And under his leadership, the billions of dollars of contracts have actually been cleared up. And so they're now working actively through the remaining contracts that are there. And so every day they're making more and more progress. But billions with a B, not millions with an M, but billions with a B under the leadership of Mayor Adams has been cleared up in contracts.
So you didn't answer part two of my
Okay,
question,
I'm sorry.
which
What's part two?
part two is understanding how funding works. Um, that when an organization get money, they don't get a lump sum of money. They get a contract and they have to provide the service. Is there any way you could shed some light about how that works for the community?
Right. I will give a very brief summary. Depending on how the funding structure is, how the applicant applies for funding, you can get it through. Of course, the obvious, the main way is the contract, right? And so there are stipulations to how the money is delivered. There are objections that need to be met, and then you've got to provide. I guess approve or some sort of like statement of accomplishments to prove that that work was administered, and then it goes through for review, and then you're able to get paid out for those action items that were accomplished. So this is very brief. This is not extensive at all. So it would not be inclusive of everything, but essentially that's how it functions. And so you know, you even when you're applying through, because you can apply for funding through the mayor every year. He works with city council to pass a budget, so the council members in every district work to find a budget, an agreeable budget for the entire city. But that means they're getting money allocated to their community. So organizations in their community would also be able to receive that money from the council member. So that's either through discretionary funding, having contracts with the city, having contracts with receiving grant funding from other elected officials. So there are different ways that that funding comes in. But then each of these streams of fundings or grants have stipulations that need to be met, and then the actions are taken, the services are rolled out, and then the organization would then provide, hey, this is a list of all the things that we've done, the expenses paid out, and now where they're seeking to get to get paid out on specific contracts. So for the most part, that's how it works. It's not like that for every contract. And I'm not the best person to speak to the nuances of the contract, but I hope that gives a somewhat a brief, it's a succinct explanation of.
It does. It does. It does. It does. It does. It does. I think I've covered just about all the questions I've had. Is there anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get to share that's not included in the conversation we just had as far as the office, your office is concerned?
You know, I would just say comme fils de Haïti, you know, moi là pour servir communauté a. Si nou gen problem, pa hésiter pour contacter m. Ou pa gen contact moi, ou met contacter Hope, and Hope would definitely contact us to provide whatever resource that is needed. We're here to serve everyone across the city. Um, I understand that many communities would like to have somebody that looks like them, speaks their language, allows them to feel comfortable to connect with that resource. So, like I said, we do have a Caribbean liaison, but I'm also happy to help as a deputy commissioner and again a son of Haiti. M'kapale langla. So si ou gen problem ou met kontakte e mka ede nou avek problem lan nou gen.
Thank you, David. Lastly, I wanted to, I lost my thought. There was something important that I was going to ask you before about, and it was directly about your office, but it eludes me. Age does that, so forgive me. So, so I am definitely very happy to have you and look forward to seeing you again. And we're gonna be having a small talk with the DOE as well. And we'd like to know on that conversation, we'd like to loop in your office if it's possible. If you could jump in that day, that would be great. And also, I will be speaking to you offline on how we can facilitate the mobile um, kind of DOE process at our local agencies for that, particularly for our newcomers, so they don't have to go get lost. Even if it's just to educate them on how to process when they actually go there, but at least have an introduction, a DOE presence would be really, 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 really important. Oh, one more question.
Mhm.
Does the mayor, does, is it your off, which office handles the public space issues?
Can you give me a specific example?
Auditoriums, school auditoriums, school gyms, larger venues so community events can happen. Which office that handles getting those community? Because I remember when the mayor came on a Zoom with us, he had spoken about a number of community properties that can be open to the community to do events, whether it's a concert, whether it's a movie night, whether it is something in the, I know the parks is for the parks department, but I know the schools, there are other properties. Did I understand correctly or am I wrong?
Yeah, so it really depends on who really owns that, right? So if you're looking at a school auditorium, that would be DOE. If you're looking at trying to think maybe a venue at a park, then that would not be DOE any longer. That would be the Parks Department, right? So it really depends where you're looking at. So I can't just give you there's no balloon response, you know. Pa gen yon ajansi ki responsable pour tout building yo or tout public space espace yo nan site ya. So you would just have to let me know what kind of building or what venue you're looking at, and then I can make that determination and the connection, so that you can get somebody to speak to about having access to that. And then I also want to say not every space is also readily available as well. So it all depends on location, timing. There might be other things taking place, and so that limits the access to that area.
Is it your office that brings the mayor's dinner? Those community dinners that the mayor initiated in different communities. Is that your office or is that a separate office?
Yes. So breaking bread building bonds, is that what you're talking about?
That's it.
Yes, so Breaking Bread and Building Bonds is a citywide initiative led by Mayor Eric Adams, where he wants to bring in folks from various communities who have different point of views and different walks of life to really sit down and have discussions about things that maybe they wouldn't have with people that didn't look like them. And the entire premise of this is to really show that people more than not are similar than they are different, right? We're all people. We all live in the city, and we're all striving for one thing: to making sure that we live in a city that is productive and that we're taking care of our families and we're getting the resources that we need. And so, a lot of us have the same values and the same desires for ourselves and our neighbors. It's just how do we get one another to sit at the table together and talk. And so, I would encourage Hope to really go and host these dinners, and we're happy to coordinate these dinners taking place. In addition to that, if there are folks right now who are interested, they can also go to our website to learn about how they themselves can be a host, um, and or a participant. And
Yeah,
so
we
if
would definitely like to host one in our immediate community. We would definitely like to host one. So that is that your office or is that a separate office?
No, that is our office in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Prevention of Hate Crimes, along with the Office of Faith-based Community Partnerships.
So if you get hate crimes money from the city, would you be expected to do this event and fund it yourself, or does your office fund? Who funds those dinners?
So every dinner is reimbursable, and so for every dinner requires a 10 people to be at the dinners, and so for every 10 people, you're able to get reimbursed $150 for those dinners. So as long as these dinners, don't go past that 150. After you have the dinner, you complete a form, you submit it, the request for reimbursement, and then you'd receive the reimbursement of a $150.
I see. I see. All right. For coming, we look forward to having you more often, and we're gonna have we're gonna notes, and I will be following up with you. I wanna October 15th, 48th anniversary, and I will send you the invitation and to the community. Nous toujours là pour nous donner nos informations. Tout ça nous pas connaître, tout ça nous ka joindre pour nous porter pour comme support, comme information pour aider non seulement aider à intégrer, mais aider à avancer dans la communauté.